The New South Wales Government is embarking on a pretty significant overhaul of planning rules to fast-track more low-rise housing in Sydney. Some areas will be exempt because of heritage restrictions. Councils have been warned that they shouldn't use this as an excuse to block proposed new developments, especially those near transport hubs. Joining me live is the New South Wales Planning Minister, Paul Scully. Paul, thanks so much for your time. There's been a bit of a mixed reaction from councils, as you would well know by now. The Sutherland Shire Council, for example, says they want to speed up this DA approval process across the board, but there's too much red tape that's imposed by the state government. Is that true?
Oh, look, we've inherited a confused and confusing planning system when we came to office in March, and we're working through the process of stripping back the layers of duplication and overlap that have built up over a decade under the previous government. But what I announced earlier this week is about delivering the density on land that's already zoned for that density. So, for instance, land zone low density, so the R2 zoning, well located within 800 metres or walking distance of transport and town centres, to deliver those terraces, townhouses, 1 to 2 storey residential flat buildings on medium density zoned land, again in the same sort of areas, delivering medium density residential flat buildings. For 60%, you'd be surprised, 60%, Laura, of local environment plans didn't allow residential flat buildings on medium density land. It's just something we need to address.
Okay, you've often talked about, and so has Chris Minns, he even did an election campaign, that, you know, the eastern suburbs of Sydney, pretty affluent area, needs to pull its weight when it comes to high rises and more density. It is a pretty dense area. Where are you suggesting some of these new apartment blocks be built? Are you unlocking more public land to do that?
No, it's not about unlocking public land, although we are going through a government land audit at the moment where we're looking at delivering more housing, and where there might be surplus land we can deliver more housing on. But this is about making sure that there's all the permissible housing types in particular zonings are allowed in those housing types in areas that are close to transport hubs, close to town centres, close to jobs and amenity and the like. This is about delivering on the housing types that the land was zoned for to begin with.
Okay, we've spoken a lot to some of your colleagues about some of the problems within the planning system, even the building commissioner. One thing that I get constant feedback about is the disaster that is the planning portal that builders need to use to get their projects underway. When is this going to be fixed? And are you aware of the extent of the problems through the Department of Fair Trading?
Yeah, I'm alert to the problem. Look, the planning portal was a good first step at getting some digitisation into the planning system. Otherwise, we'd still be dealing with piles of paper and rubber stamps. So it was a good first step, but it was only that. And we need to continue to improve that. So we're doing a couple of things. One, I've got the department working on where those improvements will be and how we can make sure the portal's actually working better for users.
Do you need more staff?
The second is we committed... Sorry?
Do you need more staff?
Oh, we've allocated extra staff to that, both on the customer service side and on the technical side. So that work's being done. But in addition to that, in parallel with that, we've allocated $5.6 million in the last budget to introducing artificial intelligence into the system, so we can improve the quality of submissions coming into the planning system. And so that means we can reduce the number of times that requests for more information have to be made. We improve that quality coming in, and we can increase and improve the throughput of the planning system going through. But yes, I accept there is work to be done, and I've got the department working on that at the moment.
The threats were made that if local councils don't actually approve DAs, you know, pretty simple DAs in a reasonable amount of time, that the state government would just come in and do automatic approvals for pretty simple applications. Are you going to do that?
Well, what we're doing, and what the Premier's announced recently at the Bradfield oration, which you would have heard, is that we're establishing a pattern book of designs for that low and mid-rise types of property types, which will allow us to speed up the process for those. So that's one thing. We're also working with councils to improve the system, but also get more planners into the system. But yes, there's more work to be done to bring those times down. Over the last 2 years, in the lead up to March this year, the average assessment time doubled under the previous government. It's already coming down. It's coming down gradually, and this is the 4th month in a row that it's come down most recently, but there's more work to do, and we're not shying away from that. We're not shying away from the fact that we have to confront the housing crisis.
All right, not quite pulling that trigger yet. I just want to ask you about something that's not in your portfolio but was blocked in Parliament last night. Labor's new hate speech laws essentially were blocked and voted against by the Liberals. Why?
Look, you'd have to ask the Liberals what they're up to with voting against those. We introduced what we thought was pretty common sense arrangements. Oh, look, the Liberals should answer for their decisions on how they vote and why that is that they've voted that way, and perhaps they'll come on your show and do exactly that. I'm not going to try and justify their position. But what we've tried to do is introduce some simple changes to the laws that would allow additional prosecutions to proceed. There's no point in having a law if people aren't being prosecuted when they're breaching it.
Paul Scully, we'll let you get back to it. Thanks so much.
Great, off to question time. Thanks, Laura. Appreciate it.
Enjoy.